2 years after the revolution, Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through the halls of the new Galactic Assembly building in Seoul. The architecture was amazing, a blend of design elements from dozens of species. HFY thermal systems provided perfect climate control. HFY crystal technology created walls that could shift transparency based on need. Yilani water features flowed throughout the building, creating a peaceful atmosphere for diplomatic work. The first session of the Democratic Federation of Worlds was about to begin. Representatives from over 200 species would gather to vote on the new galactic constitution. It was something that had never happened before, true democracy on a galactic scale. Ambassador, called Dr. Mi Young, now serving as Earth's Secretary of Interspecies Relations. The Resh delegation just arrived. They're requesting a private meeting before the session. The Resh had once been the most powerful species in the old council. Their leader, Admiral Korth, was now in prison for war crimes. But many Resh worlds had overthrown their authoritarian governments and were trying to join the new federation. Hyunwoo met with the Resh delegation in a small conference room. Their leader, a young female named Kira Nell, looked nervous. The Resh had never practiced democracy before. Ambassador, Kira Nell began, "My people are struggling with these new concepts. We were taught that democracy leads to chaos, that only strong leaders can maintain order. But we see what you have built here and we want to learn." Hyunwoo smiled. This was a conversation he had many times in the past 2 years. Democracy isn't easy. It requires people to work together, to compromise, to respect different opinions. But it's worth it because it means everyone has a voice. Even former enemies, especially former enemies. That's how we build lasting peace. The main assembly hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some breathed air, others required water environments, and a few existed as pure energy. The translation technology had advanced to handle hundreds of languages simultaneously. Elder Nal Seth, now representing the Vec Republic, sat next to Captain Do Hyun, who had retired from the military to become Earth's representative. Nearby, a Keth delegate discussed mining rights with a Yilani engineer. Former slaves sat next to former masters, working together to build something new. "Friends," Hyunwoo announced as the session began, "we gather today not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals." The old galaxy was built on the idea that might makes right. Our new federation is built on the idea that every conscious being has value. The first vote was on the fundamental principles of the new government. The debate was intense but respectful. Some species worried about losing their traditional ways. Others feared that larger species would dominate smaller ones. But gradually, consensus emerged. The final vote was unanimous. The Democratic Federation of Worlds would be based on equality, individual rights, and the protection of all species, no matter how small or different. Admiral Do Hyun, now running the humanitarian fleet, received a priority message while attending the assembly. A new crisis had developed in the Outer Rim, where a plague was spreading among recently liberated worlds. "All ships, prepare for immediate departure," he broadcast to his fleet. "We have people who need help." The humanitarian fleet was no longer just human ships. Vec medical vessels with advanced healing technology worked alongside Threnxi bioships that could create medicines from living organisms. Keth mining ships carried supplies, while Yilani water treatment vessels provided clean drinking water to affected worlds. On the plague-stricken world of Kalior, the fleet worked together in ways that amazed the local population. Human doctors worked with Threnxi healers who could actually sense disease in plants and animals. Vec engineers used their energy manipulation to power medical equipment. Yilani technicians created clean water systems to prevent further infection. "I have never seen such cooperation," said the Kalior planetary leader to Do Hyun. "Different species working as one people. Is this what the Federation offers?" "This is what we've always offered," Do Hyun replied. "The chance to be part of something bigger than ourselves." Back on Earth, Dr. Mi Young was conducting her daily walk through New Seoul's multi-species districts. The city had become a model for integration that was being copied across the galaxy. Children of different species played together in parks designed to accommodate various body types and environmental needs. She stopped to watch a group of youngsters playing a game that combined human soccer, Vec energy ball, and Keth crystal stacking. The rules had evolved naturally as the children taught each other their traditional games. "Dr. Mi Young," called a familiar voice. Elder Nalseth approached, looking much healthier than when they first met. I wanted to thank you again for what your people did for us. We didn't save you, Mi-young replied. We just gave you a chance to save yourselves, and you've done more than survive. You've thrived. The children don't even remember the old galaxy, Nalseth observed, watching the mixed group at play. To them, this is normal. Different species living together, working together, being friends. Maybe that's the real victory, Mi-young said. Not changing minds, but raising a generation that never needed their minds changed. On the former Council capital world, now called Unity Station, massive construction projects were transforming the old authoritarian structures into open, democratic spaces. Former council buildings were being converted into schools, hospitals, and community centers. President Young-soo was visiting to see the progress personally. The transformation was remarkable. Where once gray, oppressive towers had dominated the skyline, now colorful spires reached toward the stars, each one designed to house multiple species comfortably. The psychological impact is incredible, reported the station's new administrator, a former council member who had embraced democratic ideals. People who lived under authoritarian rule for generations are learning what it means to make their own choices. Young-soo visited a school where young beings from dozens of species learned together. The curriculum included not just traditional subjects but courses on cooperation, democratic participation, and respect for diversity. What do you want to be when you grow up? Young-soo asked a young Resh student. I want to be a bridge builder, the child replied, someone who helps different species understand each other. The Old Moor Empire had undergone the most dramatic transformation. The brutal military structure had been replaced by a council of former slave species who were teaching their former masters about cooperation and compassion. General Morthak's replacement was a former slave named Gentlestep, a being whose species had been conquered early in Moor expansion. Instead of seeking revenge, Gentlestep focused on education and rehabilitation. Cruelty is learned, Gentlestep explained to a gathering of former Moor officers. If it can be learned, it can be unlearned. We will teach our children to be strong through protection, not through domination. The process was not easy. Some former Moor soldiers struggled with the concept of equality, but gradually, as they saw the prosperity and happiness of integrated communities, even the most resistant began to understand. As the second anniversary of the revolution approached, Dr. Wu Jin published his comprehensive study on the technological advances that had emerged from species cooperation. The results were stunning. We have made more technological progress in 2 years than the galaxy achieved in the previous century, he reported. When different ways of thinking combine freely, innovation explodes. Medical advances from combining human Threnxi and Vec knowledge had eliminated several diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Engineering breakthroughs from mixing Keth crystal technology with human manufacturing had revolutionized construction and transportation. Most importantly, the psychological studies showed that beings from integrated communities were happier, healthier, and more creative than those from segregated societies. As Dr. Mi-young stood in her favorite Seoul park, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, Elder Nalseth joined her one more time. Your people gave us more than shelter, he said, watching a human child help a young Vec who had fallen while playing. You gave us hope that the universe could be better, Mi-young smiled. We didn't change the galaxy alone. Every species that chose compassion over fear, every person who stood up for others, they changed it too. We just showed them it was possible. Above them, ships from across the galaxy arrived and departed peacefully from Earth's orbital stations. The planet that had once been cast out was now the heart of a civilization, based on cooperation instead of domination. As the twin suns set over New Seoul, the city's lights blended with the bioluminescent gardens of a dozen worlds, creating something beautiful and new. It was a testament to what the galaxy could become when no one was left behind. The revolution was complete, but the real work, building a better future for all conscious beings, would continue for generations to come. And at the center of it all remained the simple human belief that had started everything. Every life has value, and everyone deserves a second chance. The galaxy had learned that lesson well. The Battle of Kepler Nebula began at dawn, ship time. Admiral Yun Hai stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, watching the enemy fleet emerge from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 800 council ships and 400 more vessels spread across the starfield, their weapons already charging. "All ships, this is Admiral Yun Hai," she broadcast to the Liberation Armada. "Today we fight not just for ourselves but for every being in the galaxy who believes in freedom. Remember, we are not alone." What the Council and more forces did not know was that the battle had already begun on 1,000 other worlds. On the water world of Aquatica, Yilani resistance fighters emerged from the deep oceans. They had been hiding for months, using their natural abilities to avoid detection. Now they struck at Council bases, disabling orbital platforms and communication arrays. The crystalline beings called Balani had spread throughout Council space as refugees. Now they revealed their true power. Across dozens of worlds, they synchronized their light-based communication to create massive interference patterns. Council ships suddenly found their long-range communications cut off, their computer networks crashing, their coordination falling apart. On the industrial world of Keith Prime, the insectoid miners who had been forced into slavery by the Council rose up. Their knowledge of underground tunnels and crystal technology turned every mine into a fortress. Council troops found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear from anywhere and disappear just as quickly. But the most shocking revolt came from within the Moor Empire itself. The Tokari, shape-shifting beings who could look like any species, had infiltrated Moor military bases. For months they had been posing as Moor soldiers, learning enemy plans and waiting for the right moment. When the battle began, they struck from within. Moor ships found their own crew members turning against them. Command centers were destroyed by soldiers who were not really soldiers at all. In the nebula, the space battle was fierce. The Terra Nova led the human fleet in a desperate fight against overwhelming odds. Council ships poured laser fire into the gas clouds, trying to force the Liberation Armada into open space where they could be destroyed. Captain Haywan commanded the boarding operations from her assault ship, the Defiant. Her crew was a mix of humans and refugees, all volunteers who had lost everything to Council and more aggression. "Target the enemy flagship," Haywan ordered. "If we can take out their command ship, their coordination will collapse." The Death's Crown was the largest ship in the Moor fleet, a massive battle cruiser designed to inspire terror. Its hull was black as space, covered with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But Haywan had studied its design and found a weakness. "All fighters concentrate on the port shield generators," she commanded. "One good hit and we can punch through." Human pilots flew beside Vec energy beings who had learned to operate small fighter craft. Keth engineers had modified human missiles with crystal technology that could penetrate the strongest armor. Working together, they broke through the Death's Crown's defenses. Haywan's boarding team included some of the galaxy's best fighters. Medic So Young carried both human medical supplies and Threnxi healing plants. Vec warrior Nal Keth fought alongside human marines. The Keth engineer Tiknalar had modified his crystal shell to become living armor. The inside of the Death's Crown was like a nightmare. Dark corridors filled with the smell of fear and violence. More soldiers were huge, brutal beings who fought without mercy. But the boarding team had something the Moor did not understand. They fought for each other. When So Young was pinned down by enemy fire, Nalketh charged across open ground to protect her, taking hits that would have killed a human. When Tiknalar's crystal armor was cracked by more weapons, So Young worked under fire to repair it with a combination of human technology and Threnxi biological healing. "We need to reach the bridge," Haywan shouted over the sound of battle. The fight through the ship's corridors was brutal. More soldiers were individually stronger than any member of the boarding team, but they had never learned to work together the way the refugees had. Each Moor fought alone, while the Liberation team moved as one unit. On the bridge, they found General Morthak, the same leader who had proposed genocide at the council meeting. He was a massive being covered in scars from a lifetime of warfare. "Humans," he snarled, "you think your weakness makes you strong, but I will show you the price of defying the Empire." The fight was fierce, but it ended when Tiknalar made the ultimate sacrifice. The Keth engineer overloaded his crystal shell, creating an explosion that disabled the ship's main weapons and gave the boarding team control of the bridge. As Tiknalar died, his last words were translated by the ship's computer, "For all who dream of freedom." With the Death's Crown captured, the tide of battle began to turn. But the real victory was happening across the galaxy. as oppressed species rose up everywhere. The Moor Empire's slave worlds rebelled simultaneously. Species that had been conquered and enslaved for generations suddenly remembered what freedom felt like. They had seen what humanity and the refugees accomplished working together, and they wanted the same chance. On the Council's capital world, massive protests filled the streets. Citizens who had been told that authoritarian rule was necessary for order saw images of the diverse, peaceful communities on Earth and demanded change. Prime Watchers and Thari of the Axiom Collective appeared via hologram on the Terra Nova's bridge as the battle reached its climax. "Admiral," the ancient being said, "we are transmitting the location of every council and more command facility to your allies across the galaxy. The time for shadows and secrets is over." The information from the Axiom Collective was devastating to the enemy. Hidden bases were exposed, secret weapon facilities were destroyed, and corrupt leaders found themselves with nowhere to hide. Admiral Korth, commanding the Council fleet from his flagship, watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across Council space, rebellions on dozens of worlds, his own species demanding his resignation, allied species switching sides to join the liberation movement. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from half our fleet. They don't want to fight anymore." Korth looked at the tactical display. What had started as an easy victory against a small refugee fleet had become a galaxy-wide revolution. The Council's authority was collapsing everywhere. "All ships," he broadcast, "withdraw to Council space. This battle is over." But as the surviving Council and more ships retreated, Yunhai knew the real work was just beginning. The old order was falling apart, but what would replace it? "Admiral," reported Captain Do-hyun from the sanctuary, "we're getting messages from governments across the galaxy. They want to negotiate. They want to join us." Yunhai looked out at the stars where ships from dozens of species were working together to rescue survivors and repair battle damage. Former enemies were helping each other, united by the simple idea that all conscious beings deserved respect and freedom. "Send the same message to everyone," she ordered. "The galaxy belongs to all of us. It's time we started acting like it." The Battle of Kepler Nebula was over, but the real victory was just beginning. Across the galaxy, beings who had lived under oppression for generations were taking their first breaths of freedom. And at the center of it all was the simple human belief that everyone deserved a second chance. The meeting room on the Council's capital station was filled with tension. Admiral Korth of the hegemony of Resh sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species. The holographic display showed refugee movements across known space. "The human problem is getting worse," Korth announced. His voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never been challenged. "They have inspired widespread rebellion among inferior species. Something must be done." Counselor Vex Prime, speaking for the Mechanical Automaton Collective, agreed. "The humans' emotional responses are spreading like a virus. Order must be restored." "I have a solution," said General Morthak, the Moor Empire's representative. His scarred face showed the brutal nature of his people. "Give us permission to cleanse the refugee populations. In return, we will limit our expansion into Council space." The room fell silent. What the Moor general was suggesting was genocide on a massive scale. "You're talking about millions of lives," said Counselor Yeth, one of the few voices of concern. "Lives that drain resources and spread chaos," Korth replied coldly. "The Moor solution is efficient." The vote was close, but it passed. The Galactic Council officially gave the Moor Empire permission to deal with the refugee crisis, however they saw fit. In return, the Council would help trap refugee fleets and block human rescue efforts. Captain Dongwu was returning from his patrol when he saw it happen. A Yalani colony ship, the Water's Dream, was trapped in a gravity well created by Council forces. The aquatic beings inside were calling for help, but their ship could not move. "This is Captain Dongwu of the Wanderer," he broadcast. "Release that ship immediately." "Negative," came the Council response. "These refugees are being relocated according to new galactic law." Dongwu watched in horror as more hunter ships approached the trapped vessel. He knew what relocation really meant. "Like hell they are," he muttered and powered up his weapons. The Wanderer was a small scout ship, not built for combat. But Dongwu had trained with the best human pilots, and he was not going to let innocent people die while he watched. His ship darted between the Council vessels, disrupting their gravity field. The Yilani ship broke free and began moving toward human space. "You have violated galactic law," the Council Admiral announced. "Prepare to be destroyed." "I'm defending civilians," Dongwu replied as laser fire erupted around his ship. The battle was short, but fierce. Dongwu's ship was damaged, but he managed to escape. More importantly, the Yilani colony ship reached safety. But the price was high. Humanity was now officially at war with both the Council and the Moor Empire. On Earth, the transformation was incredible. President Youngsu walked through New Seoul's International District, where beings from dozens of worlds lived and worked together. Vec thermal gardens provided heat for the entire area. Keth crystal spires reached toward the sky, housing families from multiple species. Yilani canals carried clean water through neighborhoods designed for both land and water dwellers. "The integration has exceeded all expectations," reported Dr. Mi Young, the Secretary of Refugee Affairs. "Crime rates have dropped to almost nothing. Different species are learning from each other faster than we can document it." Youngsu stopped at a playground where human children played with young Vec, Keth, and Yilani. A Threngsi family was teaching human kids how to grow plants with just their touch. The laughter was universal, needing no translation. "They think this is weakness," Youngsu said, watching the children play. "But look what we've built. We're not just stronger, we're better." Admiral Yun Hai was preparing for the war she knew was coming. The combined refugee and human fleet was gathering at the Kepler Nebula, a region of space filled with gas clouds and asteroid fields that would provide cover. Her flagship, the Terra Nova, had been a colony ship before the war. Now it was the largest mobile base in human space, home to over 500,000 people from dozens of species. The ship's design reflected its diverse population. Sections built for different gravity levels, atmospheric controls for various breathing requirements, and common areas where all species could gather. "Fleet status report," Yun Hai requested. "We have over 300 ships total," reported Captain Heiwan, her tactical officer. 60 are human military vessels. The rest are converted civilian ships, refugee transports that have been armed, and vessels donated by allied species. Against how many enemies? Council intelligence suggests they're bringing over 800 ships. The Moor Empire is contributing another 400. We're outnumbered 3-1. Yun Hai studied the tactical display. The numbers looked impossible, but she had something the enemy did not understand. "What they don't know," she said to her staff, "is that we're not fighting for conquest or control. We're fighting for our families, our homes, and our right to exist. That makes all the difference." The refugees had not been passive in preparing for war. Elder Nalseth worked with human engineers to install Vec energy shields on every ship in the fleet. Keth miners had hollowed out asteroids to create hidden weapons platforms. Yilani technicians had developed new communication systems that worked underwater, underground, and in space. Most surprising were the contributions from species humanity had thought were helpless. The Balani, crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns, revealed they could disrupt electronic systems across vast distances. The Zephyrin, energy entities like the Orzak but more advanced, offered to help with ship-to-ship combat in ways no one had imagined. "We underestimated them," admitted Dr. Wu Jin to his research team. Every species the Council rejected had abilities that made them dangerous to authoritarian control. The Balani can break communication networks. The Zephyrin can disable ships. The Takari can change their shape to look like any species. No wonder the Council wanted them gone. As the enemy fleet approached the Kepler Nebula, Yun Hai received an unexpected message. It came from the Axiom Collective, the oldest known civilization in the galaxy. They had been silent for over 1,000 years, watching events from their hidden worlds. "Admiral Yun Hai of Earth," came the ancient voice. "This is Prime Watcher Zenthari. We have observed the recent events with great interest." "Honored Watcher," Yun Hai replied, not sure what to expect. The Axiom Collective has remained neutral in galactic affairs for millennia, but what we see happening now reminds us of why we withdrew from galactic society in the first place. The Council has become what we once fought against, a force that values power over wisdom, control over compassion. "What are you saying?" "We are saying that humanity has shown qualities we have not seen in the galaxy for a very long time. You protect the weak not because they serve you, but because it is right. You welcome strangers not because you need them, but because they need you. This is wisdom the galaxy has forgotten." The transmission paused, then continued. The Axiom Collective will provide support for your cause, not with weapons or ships, and we have moved beyond such things, but with knowledge and technology that may help level the battle ahead. As the enemy fleet entered the nebula, Admiral Yun Hai felt the weight of what was coming. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a battle for the soul of the galaxy. Would the future belong to those who believed might made right, or to those who believed in protecting others? The war for galactic freedom was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Vec joined the human fleet. Captain Ji-Wan stood in the main hall of the New Haven, watching something amazing happen. The massive colony ship had been changed into a floating city where different species lived together. Vec engineers worked next to human technicians, fixing water systems. Keth miners, who looked like giant insects with crystal shells, shared their digging knowledge with human construction teams. In the hydroponics bay, the aquatic Yelani used their underwater farming skills to grow food for everyone. "Daily report, Captain," said her first officer, Wu Jin. "Food production is up 15% thanks to Yelani techniques. The Keth have found 3 new mineral deposits on the asteroid we're mining, and the Orzak are helping us improve our energy systems." Ji-Wan nodded. The Orzak were the strangest refugees they had taken in. They were beings made of pure energy who floated in special containers. Most species could not even talk to them, but humans had figured out how to communicate through computer interfaces. "Any word from the defense fleet?" Ji-Wan asked. Before Wu Jin could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and an emergency announcement echoed through the corridors. "All hands to stations. This is Commander Seok Jin of the Defense Fleet. More Empire ships detected approaching refugee convoy Grid 7. Ji-Wan ran to the bridge. On the main screen, she could see the problem. A group of Threnxi ships was trying to reach human space. The Threnxi were plant-like beings who had been driven from their homeworld by more forces. But between them and safety, 3 more battle cruisers were moving to attack. "Can we reach them in time?" Ji-Wan asked. "Negative," reported the navigation officer. "The Moor will intercept in 20 minutes. We're 3 hours away." Through the communication system, they could hear the Threnxi calling for help. Their voices sounded like wind through leaves, even through the translator. "Please, anyone who can hear this. We have children aboard, families. We just want to live in peace." The Moor response was cold and cruel. "Surrender now and die quickly, or run and die slowly. The Empire shows no mercy to the weak." On the defense fleet, Commander Seok Jin was pushing his ships as hard as they could go, but he knew they would not make it in time. The Moor had planned this attack well. Then something unexpected happened. Elder Nalseth's voice came over the fleet communications. "All Vec ships, prepare for emergency jump. Set course for the Threnxi convoy." "Elder, your ships are not warships," Seok Jin warned. "The Moor will destroy you." "Perhaps," Nalseth replied. "But we will not watch others suffer what we suffered. We know what it means to run with nowhere to go." The Vec ships jumped into hyperspace. They were cargo vessels and civilian transports not built for fighting, but they had one advantage. They knew they were going to save lives, not take them. The Vec arrived just as the Moor ships opened fire on the Threnxi convoy. Without hesitation, the Vec ships moved between the attackers and the refugees. More weapons tore into Vec hulls, but the reptilian ships held their position. "This is Elder Nalseth to Moor Fleet," came the transmission. "These people are under our protection." The Moor commander laughed. "The protection of defeated cowards means nothing. Stand aside or burn with them." "We have been defeated before," Nalseth said calmly. "But we learned something from humans. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is protect those who cannot protect themselves." The battle was fierce but short. The Vec ships were damaged badly, but they gave the Threnxi time to escape toward human space. More importantly, they showed the galaxy something new. Refugees standing up for other refugees. When the human defense fleet finally arrived, they found the Moor retreating. The Vec had won by refusing to run away. Back on Earth, President Youngsu was meeting with his advisors. The planet had changed dramatically in the past months. Cities now had districts designed for different species. Vec thermal gardens provided heating for entire neighborhoods. Keth crystal technology was being used in new buildings. Yelani canal systems brought water to desert areas. "The refugee population is now over 2 million, reported the Secretary of Integration, Mi Young. "They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Crime rates are down, innovation is up, and our economy is growing faster than ever." "What about the Council's response?" Young-Soo asked. His military advisor, Admiral Yun-hai, brought up a holographic display. They're getting more aggressive. Council ships have been spotted near refugee convoy routes. They're not just refusing to help anymore. They're actively interfering with rescue operations. And the Moor Empire? Getting bolder. They see our protection of refugees as a sign of weakness. Their raids are increasing. Young-Soo looked out the window of his office. In the distance, he could see a Vec family walking through a park with their human neighbors. Children of different species played together on equipment designed to work for various body types. They think compassion is weakness, he said. But look what it's built. We're stronger now than we ever were alone. Dr. Wu Jin, Earth's lead scientist, had been studying the technology exchanges happening between species. His report was amazing. The integration is happening faster than anyone predicted, he told the Science Council. Vec energy shields work perfectly with human power systems. Keth mining equipment improves our construction abilities. Yilani water technology is solving drought problems on 6 colonies. It's like all these technologies were meant to work together. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Sujin. Think about it. Every species the Council rejected had something unique to offer. The Vec have energy manipulation. The Kith understand crystal technology. The Yilani know how to work with water and organic systems. The Threnxi have biological knowledge we never imagined. Separately, these are just different approaches. Together, they're revolutionary. Meanwhile, Captain Dongwu of the scout ship Wanderer was on a dangerous mission. He was watching Council space trying to understand their new policies toward refugees. What he saw made him angry. A Council fleet had trapped a group of Yilani colony ships in a gravity well. The aquatic beings could not escape, and more hunters were moving in for the kill. This is Captain Dongwu to Council fleet, he transmitted. Those are civilians. Let them go. This is Admiral Korth of the hegemony of Resh, came the reply. These refugees are violating Council space. They will be dealt with according to law. What law allows murder? The law of survival. The weak must make way for the strong. Dongwu could not watch innocent people die. He powered up his ship's weapons and moved to help the Yilani. The Council ships immediately opened fire on him. All human vessels, this is Admiral Korth. You are now declared enemies of galactic peace. Any human ship found in Council space will be destroyed on sight. The message was transmitted across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer just cast out. They were officially at war with the Galactic Council. But as the news spread, something else happened. Refugee populations across the galaxy began organizing. The Vec shared their new shield technology. The Keth provided mining equipment for hidden bases. The Yilani created underground networks of safe houses on water worlds. For the first time in galactic history, the unwanted were working together. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species that had shown them that caring for others was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. The war was coming, but they would not face it alone. Captain Do Hyun stood on the bridge of the UES sanctuary, staring at the endless stars. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council threw humanity out of their grand civilization. They called humans a rogue species because Earth refused to give up democracy and individual rights. The Council wanted all species to follow their strict rules about how societies should work. Captain, we have a signal coming in, said Communications Officer Taman. His voice was tired. The whole crew was tired. Being cast out meant no safe ports, no trade deals, and no friends among the stars. Do-hyun walked over to the main screen. Put it through. The image showed dozens of damaged ships floating in space. They looked like they had been through a terrible war. Smoke came from their hulls and many had holes blown through their sides. These ships were much different from human vessels. They had a green, scaled appearance that reminded Do-hyun of reptiles. This is Elder Nalseth of the Vec Exodus fleet, came a weak voice. The translator made the words sound hollow and sad. We request aid. Our people are dying. Do-hyun knew about the Vec. They had lost a brutal war against the Moor Empire 6 months ago. The Moor were known across the galaxy for their cruelty. They did not just defeat enemies, they destroyed them completely. What do you need? Do-hyun asked. Food, medicine, radiation treatment. Our ships are poisoned from our homeworld's destruction. The Council has denied our requests for help. They say we chose our fate through weakness. Chief Medical Officer Soo Jin stepped forward. She had been listening from her station. Captain, if they have radiation poisoning, they don't have much time. Do-hyun thought about their situation. The Council had made it clear. Helping anyone without permission would make Earth an even bigger target. But looking at those dying ships, he could not just turn away. Taemin, open a channel to the fleet, Do-hyun ordered. Sir, the Council will not like this, warned Commander Seok-jin from the tactical station. The Council already doesn't like us, Do-hyun replied. All ships prepare to render aid. Medical teams to transporter rooms. Engineering teams get those radiation scrubbers ready. The next few hours were chaos. Human ships moved close to the VEC vessels. Medical teams beamed over with supplies and equipment. Soo-jin worked without rest trying to understand VEC biology so she could help them properly. Their blood is different from ours, Soo-jin reported over the comm. But the radiation damage works the same way. I can adapt our treatments. Engineer Taemin was busy too. He designed portable machines that could clean radiation from the VEC ships. The technology was not perfect, but it would keep them alive long enough to find a real solution. Do-hyun visited one of the VEC ships personally. The corridors were dark and smelled of burnt metal. VEC refugees lay on the floors too weak to move. Their scales had lost their green color and turned gray from sickness. Elder Nalseth met him near the ship's bridge. The old VEC was barely standing, but his eyes showed great intelligence and sadness. Why do you help us? Nalseth asked. The Council called your people primitive. They said humans think with emotion instead of logic. Do-hyun looked around at his medical teams working to save VEC lives. Maybe that's true. But we think every life has value. We can't just watch people die when we can help. Even strangers? Even a species you never met before. Especially strangers, Do-hyun said. That's what makes us who we are. Nalseth was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again. The Council worlds would never do this. They follow rules that say only strong species deserve to survive. They would let us die to avoid making enemies. We're already enemies of the Council, Do-hyun said. At least this way we're enemies for doing the right thing. Over the next day, the human fleet worked to save as many VEC as possible. They shared food, medicine, and clean water. Engineering teams repaired what they could of the damaged ships. Most importantly, they showed the VEC that someone in the galaxy still cared about doing good. Soo-jin reported success with the medical treatments. We've stopped the radiation poisoning from getting worse. With time and proper care, most of them will recover. Young VEC began helping with the rescue work. They learned basic human words and worked alongside the medical teams. Do-hyun watched a human engineer teaching a VEC child how to use a radiation detector. Despite everything that had happened, there was hope in the child's eyes. Captain, Taemin called from the communication station. We're getting an angry message from the Council. They're demanding we stop helping the VEC immediately. Tell them we're too busy to talk right now, Do-hyun said. As the rescue operation continued, word spread through subspace communications. Other refugee groups heard that humans were willing to help when the Council would not. Ships began changing course toward human space. Some were fleeing war, others running from persecution. All of them had been turned away by the civilized galaxy. Elder Nalseth found Do-hyun on the sanctuary's observation deck. The old VEC looked much better after treatment. His scales were returning to their natural green color. Your doctors say my people will live, Nalseth said. Most of them, yes. It will take time, but they'll recover. We have nowhere to go. Our homeworld is destroyed. The Council will not let us settle in their space. Do-hyun had been thinking about this problem. Come with us. Earth has room. We're building new colonies on empty worlds. There's space for everyone. You would do this? Take in refugees with nothing to offer? You have plenty to offer, Do-hyun said. Your knowledge, your culture, your people. Besides, we were cast out too. Maybe we can be outcasts together. Nalseth made a sound that the translator called laughter. The Council believes emotion makes species weak. But I think they are wrong. Your emotion, your compassion, makes you stronger than they understand. As the human and VEC fleets prepared to leave together, Do-hyun felt something changing. Humanity had been cast out for refusing to abandon their beliefs about right and wrong. Now those same beliefs were giving them new allies and new purpose. The stars looked different now. Instead of an empty void full of enemies, they looked like a place where good people could find each other. The galaxy had rejected humanity, but maybe humanity could build something better than what the galaxy offered. The journey to human space would take weeks. But for the first time since leaving the Council, Do-hyun felt hope. They were no longer alone among the stars.